So I turned around and I was ill. And I needed to go to the hospital. I wasn't defiant. I wasn't in compliance. I knew that I needed to go to the hospital. So I was prepared to go. My fucking aunt decides to drug me. She put barbiturates in my orange juice and handed it to me, and I passed out. When I woke up, she had me at some ghetto ass hospital in the middle of the hood while I lived in the center of my city where all the white people lived. So I wanted to go to my hospital in my neighborhood, but her ass tried to dump me, half drugged and out of it, at some hood ass hospital, and I wasn't trying to have that. I came to. And when I came to, I said, I'm not going to this hood ass hospital. And you know what my aunt did? In the middle of the night, with no shoes on, with no coat, in the middle of the winter, she left me there. I had to walk in the middle of the hood and the snowstorm. I had to walk 8 city blocks barefoot to the train station. She left to the train station. When the trainsman or the conductor saw me, because you have to pay to get on the subway. When he saw me, he said, please tell me that you have your ID on you. I said, yes, sir, I have my ID. I'm trying to get down to my neighborhood. This is not my neighborhood. He said, not a problem. He let me on the train. And before he did, he gave me a piece of information. He said, listen, if you are ever in an emergency situation like this, as long as you have your ID, you will show your ID. And we as the train conductors and people and the system will let you on the train so that you can get to where you're going. Now, mind you, anybody that knows the hood knows there's glass, there's needles on the ground, there's crack vials on the ground, there's all kinds of things on the ground. Now, all of that shit is on the bottom of my feet. Okay? Then I have to get on a dirty ass city train, barefoot, and ride down to my neighborhood. And because I was in crisis, I always did this when I would go to crisis, especially if I was in other cities like Paris or New York or stuff like that. I've been hospitalized in both. So what I would do is, for the night, because I didn't want to roam the streets, especially in the winter with nothing on, I'd go to a hotel lobby. And a lot of the hotels, the lobby is open because people come and go throughout the night. But most of the time, the person at the desk would see the state that I'm in, and I would tell them I'm impaired. And they would let me sit in the lobby until the sun came up. And collect myself. And that happened at that time. I went to, it was like a Sheraton or something like that, a nice hotel. And I sat in the lobby and I rested, barefoot, no jacket, no nothing, in the middle of the winter. I rested till the sun came up. Then I was able to go to the hospital in my area. However, like my grandmother says, I did the drug test, which was the piss test. I didn't think anything was wrong. Nothing was wrong with me. I hadn't voluntarily taken anything. So there was no reason for me not to take the test. Well, my urine was hot. So they let me into the hospital in my area. And I began the journey to coming back to myself. I always did a lot of crying in the hospital because I just couldn't believe that this was my life. It started at 17 and a half, 18-ish in college when I was medically withdrawn. Like, my future was ripped away from me because of mental illness. And none of my family that were raising me or helping to raise me did any research or told me about my mother having mental illness or told me about my father having mental illness, both collecting checks from the city because of it, or should I say from the government because of it. Nobody thought that they should tell me this about my parents because I never grew up with them. I never saw them. So nobody decided to disseminate that information to me. So here I am, 18 years old, and don't know what the fuck is going on with me. But Stay with me. So I go in the hospital. I do my little stint in the hospital. I talk to a doctor. We finally get my medication right. And I come out of the hospital and go to my other aunt's house. I didn't like staying there because my actual biological mother was there. And my sister that I don't get along with was there as well. So that was a very stressful, very triggering situation. So once I realized that I was well enough to get on the train or the bus or some stuff like that, I put the most invaluable thing that I owned, which was my computer, because it had all of my music on it. Back then I was writing music, the music that you guys have heard over the years. It was all on that computer. So I left clothing, I left everything. Told the breeder, come get my Persian cats, take them back, rehome them. She did that. So all I had was a backpack on my back that was very valuable, because today I enjoy all of this music that I've created and it's mine. So if I had left that, I would have lost all the music that I have. But anyway, I digress. So once I got well enough, I got on the train and I came to my aunt's house. Now, mind you, I hadn't realized she had drugged me yet. I didn't know. I just didn't know yet. Nobody told me. She didn't tell me. So she wasn't home. This is how this went. She wasn't home. So knowing that where my aunt lived, my grandmother was never too far behind in tow. My grandmother lived around the corner in the same complex. It was raining. God always liked to, I don't know why. I guess these stories were meant to be because it was always raining or snowing. It was always that way. It rained in Paris. I'm walking around barefoot in Paris. It's raining. But anyway, I digress. So I went and I knocked on my grandmother's door. My grandmother sees me with no shoes on, because I still didn't have any shoes. So, I'm walking around the city. Could have caught anything. Family don't care, but we'll get to that. My grandmother takes one look at me as she opens the door and says, "Boy, get in here." Needless to say, I enter my grandmother's home. I never left. That was 19 years ago. My uncle got mad that I was staying there because my uncle was always jealous of me. It was always a competition with me. He always saw that I had a very strong sense of self. I never needed anyone to tell me who I was, who I am, who I be, how strong I was, how powerful I was. I always knew who I was, and I always had confidence. And my uncle is a very insecure man. He's always been. He has done horrible things to people in my family because of his own insecurities. So I realize now and today, anytime he's ever done anything bad to me or to anyone I've loved or known, it was not a reflection of that person. It was a reflection of who he was inside. But I digress. So he gets mad because my grandmother tells him, now mind you, he's staying in her home, not paying any rent. But anyway, she tells him he's going to stay here. And I slept on the couch with my grandmother, who slept on the couch in her room, in her house, while my uncle had the bedrooms upstairs. So we're not even going to talk about how that happened. There was a lot going on there. But anyway, that's their business. So in a fit of rage, because I was there, my uncle blew up at my grandmother. And she moved out. And she took me with her. Now you have to understand why this was significant. My grandmother in my family is the college graduate. She holds her master's degree. She holds her bachelor's degree. She holds her associate's degree. She's the breadwinner. She makes the money. No one in this family, other than me, has amounted to much. My grandmother is the strongest of us all. Why? Because she did the work. So she moves out. She moves around the corner. My aunt was going through a breakup with one of her relationships. So we move into her townhouse, leave my uncle around the corner, and my other aunt was around the corner. So now, long story about that, because I had to help my aunt move out of the house where my mom was and my sister was, because like I said, they're pretty shitty people, and she had to move out of her house too because they was crazy. So I had to go down there, help her move. Now look at this. I'm doing all of this for these people that don't give a shit about me, but I helped her move, and I made her stay at my side because my aunt, she's real nice. She's nice. She can be a little pistol sometimes, but she's nice for the most part. So I knew my sister and my mom liked to fight, so I was not about to have them fighting my aunt on my watch. So I made her stay with me. We got her out of that house, etc., etc. I was living with my grandmother. So my aunt is here. My aunt witnessed my uncle, blowing up in my grandmother's face. My grandmother told him to get out. He said he had 30 days. It was just a knockdown, drag out fight. So my grandmother was upset. She had finally had enough of him and enough of his failed business ventures, because he had very many over the years and wasted a lot of her fucking money. Okay, let's just go there for a second. So she was tired of him. So then she saw, I was her firstborn grandson. She saw me in need. She was tired of him. She left. We moved around the corner. Now, mind you, we didn't just move around the corner. My grandmother didn't pay any movers. I moved her whole house by myself. I tell people, don't let the dress and wig fool you. I tell people I'm a man. I'm as much of a man as I am a female. Much male as I am female. As much man as I am woman. This is a two-spirited situation. This is a totality, a God thing. Y'all can't fuck with it. Don't try to fuck with it. If you don't understand, back up off of it. But anyway, I moved her whole house around the corner. So get this. I start staying with grandma. People are calling, saying I left the house. Where am I? Et cetera. My other aunt's up here, so she knew where I was. No problem. My grandmother don't play no games. So by the second day, she had my happy ass down at the welfare office because I was sick. And she had me applying for food stamps and medical. Okay? So she knew what she was doing. Once I got approved for the food stamps and the medical, I could begin therapy. Because the state would pay for my therapy sessions. All right? So get this. My other aunt that drugged me goes wherever else she goes or whatever. So mind you, after that ordeal, my grandmother and I are talking. And my aunt, the good one, still saucy, but the good one, tells my grandmother, that she got her disability because she's bipolar. So she got her disability. And she tells my grandmother and me, the lawyer that helped her get her disability. So my grandmother says, no problem, give me her card. She gives my grandmother the card to the lawyer. I call, I explain the situation. I explain that I've been impaired for many years and that I need to apply for Social Security disability. No problem, she says. No problem. She hears my story. My grandmother drives me down there with my other aunt, and we go to the office. We talk to her. She says, this is no problem. We'll help you fill out the paperwork, etc., etc. All we have to do is pay the woman. And we paid the woman. Granny. I love my grandma. So mind you, court date comes. I know nothing. I get in there. I'm still dazed and confused. I don't know what's going on. Grandma is holding my hand the whole way through. And it comes time for me to go into this courtroom and plead my case to get disability. Everything was going well. But I noticed the judge was looking at me kind of hard, and I didn't understand why. Well, I'm about to tell you why. Well, the judge pulls the medical records. And he says, yes, I see that he's impaired. I see that he has bipolar. He's had it for a while now. It's been many years. But I'm not about to give Social Security disability to a drug addict. My mother did drugs 25 years of my life. My father followed her in tow. I don't do drugs other than the drugs that I have to take to stay balanced for my mental illness. But he stands up in court after this and he proceeds to cuss me out and tell me, as a young black man, I am not about to use the system to fund my drug habit. Now, mind you, my lawyer is like, I'm lost because I didn't know. My lawyer says to him, Your Honor, we have information about that. That was not him. That was his aunt. She put X, Y, and Z in his orange juice. We have already established he is not a drug addict. Do you know the judge did not believe me? And I had to stand there and get cussed out by a judge. And everybody in the courtroom and everybody outside of the courtroom heard me get verbally assaulted by a judge for something I did not do. Now, God, you got to understand something. That incident was very traumatic. But the years that followed were even more traumatic. Because now I didn't have money to help my grandmother take care of me. My grandmama had to shoulder the financial responsibility of a grown fucking man for over 19 years. And do you know what I found out? My aunt, the bad one, called my mother and told my mother that she had put barbiturates in my orange juice. So, now that you understand the story, you can understand this morning when I hit the fucking roof, when she told me that this woman wanted to apologize to me. I said, an apology is bullshit, especially from my aunt, because she likes to cry and say she's sorry, and she thinks that that gives her a pass, and she continues to do malicious shit year after year to person after person. My whole family has been victimized by her and her con artist ways. So she cries and my grandmother's talking to her on the phone. And then my grandmother's talking to me. And I said to her, sorry's not fucking good enough. Does she know that to take and be sorry, she would have to take the pain and make restitution all in the same breath? Because see, my biggest problem is not that I didn't get the money I deserved for my mental illness from the government because I was impaired. My biggest problem is this. My grandmother had to pick up the slack and use her retirement money, portions of it, to take care of a grown black man. I have issues with that. So get this. As I'm going off, I told my grandmother, I said, sorry is never enough. And then I did the math. I said, oh, she about to get money? Oh, let me tell you how this situation can be made better. And I calculated the bare minimum, $600 every month for 19 years is $108,000 that she owes me. Blowing up in my grandmother's face. My grandmother told him to get out. He said he had 30 days. It was just